world of 1916 was complex, or the world of 1945 was complex. The world of 2016 is intensely complex. You'll be dealing with terrorists. You'll be dealing with hybrid armies. You'll be dealing with little green men. You're going to be dealing with tribes. You'll be dealing with national leaders and local leaders. You'll be dealing with politics and economics. And you'll be dealing with direct fire and indirect fire. And you're going to be dealing with it all. And it's all going to be dealt with simultaneously.
Back on Tinfoil Hat Club. Scott Hensler and Julie Flores will be on here a little bit. If you jump back and forth to the other show, Scott Hensler Network, the old Blog Talk show, I do those on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And last night I did a show on bad choices. And it sort of extends on to tonight, those things of every wind of doctrine. Now, on Tinfoil, we're not trying to, push the Christian agenda. Christianity in itself is a cult. It is those who are a bondservant of Jesus Christ that we're interested in. But those who have not made the decision, those who do not know, we're reaching out to you, whether you're in the occult, New Age, or whatever, being the two, are basically the same thing. There's just so much lie and deception out there that the whole point is that Satan owns this world, Lucifer. And so this world we're in belongs to him. And so I'm gonna go over some things here to try and set that in motion for you to comprehend that we are living in a lie. And so those things that we've grown up with, those things that we've seen and basically been brainwashed with, it's hard to let go of those things because they have become who we are. That's why Julie and I have left just focusing on Christians on my other show, because that's who they are. Meaning they're unteachable, meaning that those things that are of truth, that they've been taught the lie in the mainstream churches for so long, they can't see the truth. And Scripture is very clear about that. That's what takes place. And so we're going to go over some of that tonight to help those who are non-Christian, those who are, again, whether you're an atheist or witch or whatever the deal is, so you can kind of understand, but also at the same time to understand that you're being lied to too. See, the whole point is to keep you out of relationship with God. Now, by bringing in other gods, by bringing in other philosophies and doctrines and beliefs and so forth, again, as I go through this, I think that that'll help you understand why all of us are basically in the same boat. I want you to understand that. Whether you're a Christian or non-Christian or whatever you are, you're in the same boat as everyone else. Now, what I referred to last night in bad choices, that even though you have the truth in front of you, you still make a choice that is a detriment, is devastating, is destructive to your life. And again, that's part of programming. Now, those who understand who God is, those who understand that He has told us through His Word that He provides a way out for all of us, that He wishes none of us should perish. And so through His Son and through the Holy Spirit and those things, we are told the truth. The question is, or the problem is that we reject it because of the programming, the lies, the deception that has been placed into our being of who we are. We automatically reject the truth. That's just the way it is, and that's one of the big problems of today, and why the United States has fallen like it has, and it has fallen. Okay, this is not the United States of America for the people. This is the United States, the corporation, for the Illuminati, for the Jews, for the Zionists, for those who are on the Council on Foreign Relations, those who are Luciferians, those who believe that Lucifer is the true God and that the war is for him to be elevated up, to bring him forth. And he has played both sides, good cop, bad cop. And there's more of that coming, and Julie hopefully will go into that as I set the stage for it. Before I get into it, though, I want to comment again about Orofino. I was there over the weekend for the Constitution Party. Now, I was not a member of it, other than I had to change my party status in order to vote in the last primaries. And by doing so, that puts me in that category of the Constitution Party. So I was able to attend and actually cast vote during the conference. This was the 2016 conference. Now, I have a friend who's very active in it, and that's how I got involved. And in it, the changing of officers, I threw my hat in the ring and basically was able to move forward into it as being the spiritual leader, so to speak. So when we have one who counsels, when we have one who prays during the meetings, before the meetings, ending the meetings, and for any issues in the middle of it, if they are a God-fearing individual who believes onto Jesus Christ and keeps the great commandments, then what we have is we have a spiritual covering to protect that group of people who are moving forth as God-fearing men and women. And that's the way that I see it. Now, in that, I came in contact by finding out that the vice presidential candidate, J.R. Myers, and then the presidential candidate, Scott Copeland, we have a lot in common. And Scott Copeland actually lives in the area where Julie's at, and J.R. Myers, as Julie talked to him, I set him up for the conversation. He has a lot of understanding and belief that we do, and that what we teach, and that's a big deal. So we've invited him on for next Monday, and attentively, it sounds like we've got that. So I invite everyone to join us for that. And the reason that I put this in the order of bad choices, that if anyone thinks that Trump is the man that's going to bring you out, you need to understand that he is also a lie. He is also a deception. He's not even human. Okay, we've been in such a matrix and a lie that those things that are around us, it's like when I first entered into the Deliverance ministry, I kept saying to myself, where is the Jezebel spirit? Okay, 1 year, 2 years goes by, and I don't see it. Well, lo and behold, it turns out the stealth Jezebel spirit, like chess pieces coming in to do checkmate, were being strategically placed all around me for a wolf kill, a pack kill. Okay? Now, Jezebels cannot get along with each other like borderlines cannot get along with each other. They may fall madly in love with each other at first, because they have this nature of sucking people in and giving something back that looks like it has worth. But in reality, they drain each other, and then they're the enemies to each other. But individuals of such nature and personalities will join forces for a short period of time, and I've discussed that in my book on borderline personality disorder. The chapter, I believe, was two cooks in the kitchen. Doesn't always work out, right? So what I found is that in this world that there are things that are put in place that are deception. So I didn't know that there were Jezebels all around me. I thought these were people who cared. I thought these were people who were like-minded and wanting to learn more and move forward together, but that was never the intent. The intent was to destroy me. Okay, anyone who reveals the spirit realm, anyone who discusses the order of things, is an enemy to Lucifer, to the demons, to the fallen angels. And again, anyone who mixes fallen angels with demons doesn't know what they're talking about. In fact, stop listening to them if that's what they're teaching you, because I can assure you that there is a difference. And in that difference, there's an order of things. And we ain't seeing anything yet. I want you to understand that. Though we're in the end times, some seals have been opened. We're moving like a banshee on a train that's going around a hairpin curve. It's interesting. When we were going down to Orfino, there was a couple of turns that were really bad, and one of them was named the Devil's Elbow. All right, we're heading for the Devil's Elbow, and the train is not going to be able to stay on the tracks. And so when you have this lying deception, it looks good, it feels good, it tastes good, it smells good, looks right and everything else. And I mentioned last night on the show for bad choices that, like when Paul was given the little book and he ate it, it was sweet, but then it was bitter in his stomach. Okay, so when we take something in, we think it's truth, we think it's right, and then we find out later it is the exact opposite. That is the world that we live in right now. So I want you to understand that the candidates that you are seeing in front of you are chess pieces who have been put in place. There's no good found in them. They are not God-fearing because they are not of God. They are of the enemy. So when it comes to making bad choice,s you've been hoodwinked, you've been deadlocked, you've been pigeon-toed, you've been painted into a corner, and you're only able to see the left-right paradigm. Well, you have to think outside the box. Julie and I were talking today that has been the program for those professing so-called Christians, is that they've been put in a box. They can't think outside the box. Okay, we've talked about there's 66 books. Well, that's an occult number. Where are the other books? Well, the Vatican has those books. And in those books tells us more of what's coming. So anybody that tells you that everything is in Scripture, though I believe that it is inspired and it is there as our manual, so to speak, it's not everything. And these things will be revealed to us in the last days. Okay? So that means that there's more to this story. And not thinking outside the box, if we had people who were inventors, entrepreneurs, those interested in business, if they didn't think outside the box, we wouldn't have had an industry, right? Same thing with computers. IBM could have had the absolute market on consumer computers, but they didn't go that route, right? And then you get some other shrewd dudes in that bring it out. Now, as time goes on, we also find out that all these people that were one of the first, like Apple Computer and so forth, they're actually of the New World Order too. And so what they were doing is they were strategically putting in place computers within your home that eventually would monitor, would eventually program you, would eventually take care of the beast order that's coming. Okay? Just like a weapon. A weapon doesn't kill. A person who uses the weapon kills. So the computer in itself is not evil, but those who put it in place are. And so we have to be discerning so we don't make bad choices. So in your bad choices, you'll find that, as I mentioned, that God always provided a way out. There was always a word given. Somebody came to you with words of knowledge. The discernment that was given to you, you overrode it. You overrid it, okay? You canceled it. You voided it. You didn't want to believe in it. You didn't want to go there. It was too much. And most likely it's because you hadn't been through deliverance. You have hurts and wounds and pains, and you have things places you'll never go, and at least not by choice. Julie and I were just talking earlier, and I was talking about the book Skeletons in the Closet, that when we have fractures and wounds within us, then there's a point in time, and I've talked about this in my book, especially in the borderline, that if you have a balloon in your hand that's like half filled with air, and you squeeze it and you try and contain it within your hand, it's going to pop out somewhere. It'll pop out of the bottom or pop out between your thumbs, most likely before it pops. So no matter what the situation is, if you've always stuffed it down and you've never taken care of it, at the most inappropriate time, it will raise its ugly head on you. That's why in marriages and relationships, all of a sudden you see somebody whack out. Well, they're reliving some things. They're being traumatized, or the trauma that was in them is a post-traumatic behavior. One of the things you can look at is if you take a piece of paper, okay, visualize this now, and I'm not talking about New Age, I'm talking about looking at reality, and just imagine taking that piece of paper on edge and slipping it through your head, so you've separated your left brain and your right brain with this piece of paper, okay, so now the two halves are separate because of the piece of paper. Now you notice that the piece of paper is flimsy, okay, so something comes along like a trigger. Now, on one side, you have all of these emotions that are hidden and pinned up. On the other side is that void that you're walking through life because you have a big hole in you. You haven't been fulfilled. You haven't come to the truth. And so something comes along to trigger you and pokes a hole through that paper. And all that information on one side now all of a sudden comes flooding through that piece of paper onto the other side, and you're overwhelmed. Many of you have nervous breakdowns. Many of you go into a complete meltdown, a shutdown, and or act out violently. That's one of the issues with borderline personality disorders. Notice it's personality disorders, because over time, that's who you have become. So over time, people have become who they are in their beliefs. Now, in that is a very dangerous situation because it makes you unteachable. It makes you brainwashed to doctrines. You are no longer thinking outside of the box because you do not want to leave your comfort zone. You're worried about your paper being poked. Okay? You don't want to go there anymore. And it's understandable. Same thing with projecting. Projecting is an issue when you all of a sudden see yourself, like you look in a mirror and you see all that ugliness and that hatred and all the stuff that was done to you, and you can't stand it, and you turn the mirror on somebody else and make them the bad guy. So now they're looking in the mirror at the ugly individual, and you've projected onto them your pains, your hurts, your wounds. And it's a very confusing situation for the opposite individual. And remember, I mentioned about two borderlines or two cooks in the kitchen. That when that happens, now you understand why in the newspaper you read about these horrible murders or these crimes of passion. Now, I need to tell you, and this has been backed up by Jose, who has been on, that those who enter into homosexuality, that takes place too. When I was in law enforcement, the crimes that we dealt with homosexuals had to do with mutilation, had to do with castration, had to do with you know what. Because these were crimes of passion that were at such magnitude that the individual was slobbering crazy. They were overdriven, and of course the demons are in the details. Now, what's taking place is that with all the trauma, with all the molestation, the rape, the abandonment, the rejection that's going on in life, we are all being set up for that slobbering insanity. Because we have beliefs in a system that is a lie. And when you find out you live in a lie and that you are a lie, you have a meltdown. You no longer know who you are. And so there's a massive attempt to regain who you are. So this is one of the reasons, as a young man, as I was growing up in the 60s and 70s, the respect that we had was never to take away the honor of another individual. Because if you take away the honor of an individual, like a gentleman, a man, then they have nothing else. And when they have nothing else, they're a very dangerous individual. So what we have today is a society that's a very dangerous society, but we also have another avenue of this, and this is all the drugs and medications, all the chemtrails, all the psychotronic weaponry, electronic weaponry, electronic radio waves that are being sent to us have caused us to be sick. Now, let me bring this into perspective. as a kid growing up in the 60s, when Vietnam was going on, I was young. I was in the 8th grade and into high school. And so it was the older kids, like my brother and sister, and those that were the ones who were always rebelling against the Vietnam War, protesting, marching, causing disorder, flooding Washington, because they had not been medicated. But drugs came along. Okay, that's one of the reasons the CIA came in with the drugs. Okay, then the love stuff and the peace stuff and all that. So that was to come in to try and make order because of their experiments, and what they had done had run away with them. It went out of control. So what we have today is the generations of today are not like when I was growing up, where we didn't have the medications, we didn't have the chemtrails, we didn't have the radio waves bombarding us. And so those people also, by the way, were sick of the establishment. Okay? So remember, don't trust anyone over 20, over 30, over 40, or whatever it was, that type of philosophy. And so they left the churches, and they went into New Age, they went into other things. And so now we had a nation that was divided. We had a whole other generation that was an experiment, but it had gone out of control, and so they had to come in with different means because they didn't have what they have today. And so that was the universities brainwashing, the media on the TV brainwashing everyone in the state of mind. This is where liberalism took a strong hold. Okay? Now, what we have today, we have those who are in the churches have accepted certain doctrines that comes from Zionism, comes through dispensation, comes through the seminaries, which is all part of the end times ploy to cause those who were supposed to be men and women of God to charge forth and take back what the enemy has stolen, now stand down, just like the kids that were all drugged out, doped out, smoking. You smoke dope. I saw a documentary on Waylon Jennings and some of the others, and Willie Nelson, for instance, and they were all jacked up on coke except Willie. Willie was a big pot smoker. So here's all these guys just, flipping out all the time and having all these issues, and Willie's just sitting there all, calm and cool and collective because he's smoking dope. Well, that's kind of what we have today, but we also, again, with the weaponry that's out there. So the kids of today, the adults of today, even the elderly, we've been bombarded with such things that we can't even stand up and make good decisions. This was all by design. Okay, now, when it comes to the church, I've mentioned before that I believe that psychotronics is being used in the church. This is counterfeiting individuals for thinking that they feel the Holy Spirit. There's a euphoria. Okay, what Julie and I have, we've compared notes. That's not the issue when we experience the Holy Spirit. We experience a peace. We experience a confirmation that everything's going to be okay. And with words of knowledge, with what's given to us, that puts us at peace. Instead of flipping out and rolling on the ground and rolling all this other stuff that we have today in these charismatic churches, that the insanity of the demons that are in there are obvious. So Unitarianism, unification, universalism, unity, those things to be placed under the Catholic Church is the attempt for causing Christians to stand down. Now, in these doctrines, they're getting Christians to sell their birthright to Israel. Okay, they're rejecting what Christ did on the cross. They're not doing the Great Commission. They're not doing the commandments. And they're loaded with demons. They're loaded with curses. And so they're an instrument of Satan today. I'm sorry. After all these years, that's what I've concluded. Okay? Now, the different doctrines are appealing to the different personalities. If you're prideful, if you're arrogant, if you're ignorant, if you're in self-doubt, insecure, or operate in fear, there's a doctrine for you, okay? And those people will gravitate towards that, especially when it comes to prosperity. Now, in Ephesians 4:14, let me read this to you. that we henceforth, now it's King James, no more, henceforth be no more children tossed to and fro and carried about with every wind of doctrine. Okay? And these things of coming, crafting, and the lies that are deceiving. Okay, do you understand? So when you have different doctrines that come in, they are deceiving, they are crafting, they are lying. These things are to throw you to and fro. And that is exactly what I see with those individuals who chase after this and chase after that and go here and go there. Okay, we're warned that, they will say Jesus is here. Well, don't go there because that's not where he is. He's at the right hand of the Father right now. All right? So these particular doctrines, just like the things that are in the world out there, are a division. Left-right paradigm of conservative and liberal. And then with this is all orchestrated by the Zionists, which are the Jews. These are not the Jews that we know in Scripture. Okay? This is a counterfeit that we're warned about in the book of Revelation. Okay? Now, those who oppose any of the doctrines then are discredited, meaning that if you don't fit into the niche of the church, then the Jezebels, then those who are part of the destruction come in like chess pieces and will take down anybody who's prophetic, that really has the truth, that really has the word, who believes unto Christ, who verifies scriptures, who tests the spirit. Okay, they must be eliminated. And so there's been great attempts to eliminate me over the years in all various ways and to discredit, and Julie's getting a taste of that herself. Now, those who enter into such things, then we're also finding are trying to come out of it as a deception because things are not working well for them, not 100%. And so the controlled opposition, like Alex Jones and some of the others, that is what's taking place. So if you can't beat them, join them. So they're coming in and they're joining and trying to befriend and to give the appearance that, oh, we just discovered this, oh, we just found this out, and all, but that's not what's going on. You see, whenever you do something that is in opposition to God and you come out of it, there must be full repentance. Okay? A repentance must be established. Truth, repentance, humbleness, meekness, kindness, forgiveness, okay? And any other way is a deception. So if you have these people who are coming out now and trying to join forces, be very wary, okay? I'm going to be bringing this up in more detail because there are, and I was mentioning last night that I'm going to be revealing or giving my opinion based on the facts that I have seen. Okay, I'm a numbers guy, probability, 1, 2, 3, ABC, and by this means I have seen that they are liars. They do not really mean what they mean because they are in opposition to Jesus Christ. Okay, period. So we are in the end times now, and we need to remember that the environment is extremely hostile. So there's a last move on the righteous right now. To deceive, to capture, destroy, to curse us. Okay, this is bringing in a new release of demons and different types of demons, and Julie's talked about that with the veil being breached. And in this breaching, we have a different category of fallen angels, which are always been there, but now they've come into our realm, and they're going to and fro, and they're seeing who they can devour. Okay. There's also the appearance of other types of creatures. Now, I took a picture when I was in Wallace over the weekend, and it was a house that had the yin-yang on it, and I didn't even know it, but when I took a picture of it, there's a cloud formation to the right. I've posted it on Tinfoil Hat Club. So when you go to the section on the main page that is the Goat Head Wall of Shame, you'll see the picture. It states picture taken of dark spirit. When you open that up, it can be either two spirits, or it gives the pattern, the spirit that you're looking at, as a butterfly. Hence, could be Mothman. I don't know. I just discovered it the other night, Monday night. Haven't had a chance to go back to it yet. But whatever it is, it wasn't visually seen by me when I was there, but the camera caught it. Now, it's the same type of cloud formation that is also on the video clip that I have on ScottHensler.org. Down at the bottom, you'll see spirit orbs caught on tape, and it's a video that I put together that a woman gave me directly off of her iPhone, and she captured it, including audio. Excuse me. And what I think was going on is that the two orbs, because of the spiritual issues she was dealing with, were there as harassment. And then I believe that there was another, whether it was an angel, I don't know what it was, but it seemed to go after them, and it seemed to be carrying chains, because you can hear the audio of the clink, clink, clink as it goes flying by after these two things that take off. What an amazing video, and it's amazing that it's hardly got any hits at all. So I need to bring up the fact again that they're doing everything they can to keep any of my stuff from having any recognition on Google or YouTube. All right? Now, in this new release of demons and fallen angels, there's a new realm of mind control, okay, whether it's from these new creatures or not. But this is coming in the form of supernatural paranormal means. Now, again, you top that off with electronic means, radio wave weaponry, those things of psychotronic mind control. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a very, very bad time. This is why we're talking about it. You may be getting sick of it, I don't know. But I can't stop talking about it because it's my job. And I need to point out those things that are deception of lies that keep you out of relationship with God. That's why we're reaching to those in the occult. Because while you're practicing such things as divination, sorcery, pharmakia, witchcraft, clairvoyance, necromancy, of these things, these are seen by our God as an abomination. And those who practice such things will not be inheriting the kingdom of God. So we're trying to bring the truth to you. So, ladies and gentlemen, the war is on, and the mainstream church is standing down. Now, there's some new doctrines coming in. Julie, I'm going to bring you in now. I've got you took you off mute. There's some new doctrines coming in, and I don't know if you want to just get into that about fallen angels, or which you want to go, but I'm just trying to set the stage that the point of it is that there's more lies than ever coming in, and we need to be discerning and not being thrown to every wind of doctrine. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, and if there's anybody that's new that's listening, I just want you to know that I'm an occult forensic expert. That's what I do, and that's my education. And I look at occult things, and I'm able to discern, crime scene, crime photos, all kinds of stuff, gematria, all of those things. And then I was in the occult, and all my life I was involved in that. And then I met Jesus Christ 6 years ago, and I just asked for the real God, the real Creator, the person in this book, and somebody had given me a Bible, and I just asked for the guy that's in that book, the real God, the real Creator, whoever may be, all that, and that's what I got. I got introduced to the Spirit of God, the real God. So that's how I came to know that He actually was real, and the stuff that I had been learning or I learned wasn't real. It was just a bunch of lies that the enemy tried to feed me. And so that's why I ended up from their side to this side. That's why I left all that. So there is a their side and there is a our side. There's two sides. And I just want to make sure everybody knows that this show's about choices. And I know that for me, I would have said, I'm not choosing God, and I'm not choosing God. I'm just, I just have my my own personal beliefs, and I'm not really, saying that your God is wrong or your thing is wrong, and that's just kind of where I was, But in the occult, the Satanists, the Luciferians, the Jews, so-called Jews, all of the leaders of the countries, they all use the King James Bible. And if you're an atheist or an occultist, well, if you're an occultist, you probably already know that. But if you're an atheist or a non-believing person in a creator or whatever, you probably don't know that. But they actually use the King James Bible. And the reason they do is because that's their playbook. This is the Anunnaki, okay, the reptilians, the Dracos. They're the ones that are using this playbook, right? And they're going to act out that entire book. That's their thing. That's what they're going to do. They're using that book to go along with the script, all right? And all throughout the years, they've used that book in many different ways, okay? So I'll pick up on that in just a minute, but I want to stress or reaffirm what Scott said about choices. Someday you're going to have to make a choice, and you're going to have to pick a side. So, and see, but the side that you pick actually will affect your eternity and where you spend eternity. So that's why it's really important, and that's why we do what we do. Now, I can tell you from everything that I've known in the past and present that all the religions are just lies. Every religion is a cult, and they're all lies. Anyone who is caught up in Christianity, Jehovah's Witnesses, Muslim, Islam, all of them are lies. They're all created by the Anunnaki, the reptilians, the Dracos. They created all of this, okay? And if you, big winged creature-looking thing who showed the top of the earth from in the air of what the earth looked like below, there were all these rings all over the earth, rings. And he said, we don't care what ring you get caught up in as long as you're caught up in one of them. And his words, not mine, he said, like Christianity, we created that. We created that ring. We don't care which one. We just want you to get caught up in one because you'll never know the true creator of the universe if you're caught up in one of our rings. And when you look down at the rings, the Christianity had, like, I see that as yellow. It was a yellow ring. Deception, doubt, disbelief, deception, disobedience, duality, evil, good and evil, that constant struggle. Everything was just, So this is what they're doing. So if you think because you go to a church that you know Jesus, I'm here to tell you, you don't know anything because they're layered. See, what you're not getting is the whole thing is layered. All religions are layered, even atheism, but they're all layered with satanic principles. Atheism is one of the biggest that's layered with satanic principles. What is believed in Satanism is what's believed in atheism. And an atheist probably wouldn't even know that, but I'm here to tell you that's the way it is. So when you look at these rings, you may not see them, but if you went above the earth and were given eyes to see them, you would see them. You would see all these people caught in these rings. So they're all making choices to get in a ring and stay there. They're staying in that ring. They're not coming out. So they're limited. They're in a box. So they're actually not thinking for themselves. So I'm going to tell you something that I did tell my daughter this, and actually I've asked this ask another person this. You go to the store. You're at Sears, right? You're in the appliance section, and you're looking at refrigerators. And you finally, you're not really going to buy one that day probably, but you just want to look at them. So you're looking around and all this stuff, and after you've kind of decided and narrowed it down on 2 or 3 that you like that style, you think, well, I wonder if that fit in my space at home. So you're like, I don't know, I might measure that. I do need a new fridge one day. No, I don't know. So a young man comes over and he says to you, well, hello, and so you're talking to him, and he's, oh, you're Mrs. Wilson. Oh, hi, Mrs. Wilson. Nice to meet you. and he's just telling you all about the refrigerator and all the functions and the little bells and whistles on it. And so then he turns and he looks at you and he says, would you like that delivered today or would you like it delivered next week? Did he give you a choice? And everybody says, yes, he did. He gave me a choice of whether I wanted it delivered today or if I wanted it delivered next week. So he gave me a choice. That was very nice of him. See, that's where you're trapped, right there. You are all trapped right there. And by the way, no one who I've asked that question to ever got it right, because there's a right answer and there's a wrong answer. If you answer it wrong, then you are programmed, boxed in, and you don't think for yourself. And that's pretty scary. That's what that tells me. It's one of those psychological tests that tells me where you're at up here in your brain. So that tells me who you are and what that you're programmed and that you need to get out of the matrix if you actually want the truth. So was she offered a choice? Everybody says yes. And I say, you know what? She wasn't offered a choice. He never even asked her if she wanted it. He just said today or next week. She didn't even say she wanted it. She wasn't offered the choice to even take it. Would you like that? Do you understand? That's how you are living in this matrix. Would you like that delivered today or next week, Mrs. Wilson? That's where you live. Every day, all of you live right there. And I'm going to tell you something. That infernal, damned television, you have no idea what that television is doing to you. If you could understand the blocks of psychology and what happens in the mind, your subconscious is consistently, constantly, from cradle to grave, being programmed. And 99%, over 99% of the people on the earth go from cradle to grave and never make a choice that actually is their own. Never. Not one choice. They think they do, but they're not. You're making a choice in the prison that you live in. You're not making real choices. You're not even who you were supposed to be. You were not created to live in a prison. And you live in a prison, and most of you are staying in the prison of your own making. You're choosing to be there. You're not choosing to get out. So you remember, would you like that delivered today, or would you like it delivered next week? Don't forget that little story, because you need to ask yourself, honestly, how would I have answered that? I probably would have said, yes, he gave me choices, but he did not. So just remember I said that. And you know, Scott, I was raised very secluded from society. I was never, we didn't live in the world. We lived in the middle of nowhere. We didn't go, we weren't all raised in public school our whole life. We didn't associate with other people, like, ever. Just people that were in our little cult. But outside of that, we didn't associate with other people. I went to some years of public school, but my siblings did not. My younger siblings were completely homeschooled. We were just very secluded. So I grew up outside of the mainstream matrix, and I had no idea that everybody was so programmed, because I didn't see anything they saw, and I never fit in with anybody. I thought, what's wrong with these people? Everybody's going like a bunch of cows. That's what we did. We were ranchers, and I used to chase cattle and round up cattle, and where a couple of them went that way, they'd all follow, And that's what I see in human beings. So anyway, you need to ask yourself the question: if someone comes out of a situation or has lived a life where they see these things, and they're not coming out of the same all your life structured in the public schools, in the colleges, in the churches, by that point you're done. you are seriously brainwashed. And now you got to get out. You are really, really, really brainwashed. So when somebody comes out of all that, it's very difficult. But when somebody who's never been exposed to that stuff and was not in that, and also grew up in the occult, when I came to this side, I ended up being stripped of every power I had. The day I met Jesus, my powers were stripped because those were given to me by demons. Okay? So that was all gone. But some years later, as I studied and studied and studied, those things started to come back. And Jesus Christ started to open my eyes to the spirit realm. Once again, this time, I knew they weren't dead people trying to be nice. They're demons, and they don't want to be nice. So when I tell you I see demons, here, 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 and you say, how convenient that you see demons. Oh, well, how can, then that tells me that you really don't want help. You don't want to know, I'm never going to listen to anything anybody ever tells me again. I got lied to and I got brainwashed in the churches. Well, that's fine. I got lied to and brainwashed in occults and in the occult. You don't see me acting like that because there are people who know more than we do. If they're on television, they're either a reptilian or a hybrid or they're clones or they're completely sold out. Understand those words that just came out of my mouth. If you are on television, if you have a music deal, you are either a reptilian, a hybrid, a clone, or a sold-out blood oath to Lucifer. There's no options after that. So if you're listening to all these preachers on these television shows, you're listening to a reptilian, cloaking as human, B, a hybrid reptilian, or amphibian or insectian, C, a clone, D, someone who's written their name in blood and sold out to Satan. Where now they have what is called a quill. So that quill is now in their brain, and that quill enters in on the corner of the eye, and it sits itself right over the pineal gland, right behind your, eyes, and it takes over. So there is no coming back. All these Christian beliefs of, well, you can always get out, bull crap. Once you sign that bargain and that quill is in your head, that little demonic little thing takes over and you don't even know who you are anymore. Do you understand? You're done. And everyone who's famous is chipped. Every person who's famous is chipped. Benny Hinn is chipped. All of them. Everybody's, besides Benny Hinn's not human, by the way. You guys may think he is, but he is not. He is a hybrid. He's a reptilian. So you need to understand that. So is Kenneth Copeland. All right, these are not humans. All right? Most of them are not. So if you continue to listen to these people, you have only yourself to blame for never knowing Jesus Christ. You can say you do, but you do not. You know the Jesus Christ that they told you existed, but you don't know the real one because he has nothing to do with any of that. I tell you right now, nothing to do with any of it. Let me ask you a question. Why is it that the churches participate in underground child trafficking, and a lot of the pastors are the programmers that program children? If there's so much of God, why are they doing that? Oh, not my church. You're full of crap because they all do it. All these churches are participating in this stuff. Okay? Mind control, programming. Do you understand? That's what they're doing. And this is called lesser magic. That's lesser magic. And every church, every religious denomination practices witchcraft. All of them. Because what you're doing in your church, see, it's layered. Don't forget, it's layered. On the top, you get the exoteric. They tell you exoterically, everything is exoteric. It's layered with Satanism, and you don't even know it. When he says Jesus, he means Lucifer. But you don't know that. You're sitting in a church with reptilians, hybrids, insectian hybrids, clones. One day, all of you are going to be so shocked when you find out how many people that you've known your whole life that aren't even human. Your jaw's going to drop because you guys believe you're the only species here. I got news for you. You ain't even you don't even come close to the numbers in humans of the species on the other side. There are trillions more other species. Trillions. Okay, there's supposed to be 7 billion humans, and in fact, I don't believe that number. I don't believe it. Not true humans, okay? There's people that look like humans that are not. But I'm going to tell you something. The population of true humans here, even if it was 7 billion, is nothing compared to the trillions of other beings that are here right now, and you don't see them. They're everywhere, but you don't see them. They're running around underground in underground cities. They live inside the earth. This is all happening. So while you're assuming that your little ring that you're in has got some truth in it, you're totally walking in lies. Everything's a lie. And one of the lies that I have heard, and I heard it today, is that I think there's a guy named Jonathan Kleck that tells this. This is how he explains things. And I guess there's more than just him that explain these things. That we are all fallen angels, and we're here to redeem ourselves back to heaven. Listen, understand this. I have told you guys before, they want to be you. Do you understand? These beings want to be you. Why do they want to be you? That's because the Creator made you. Did you know that you are made so far above in the design of who you are than these beings are? You are made very, very special, different from all the other beings God ever made. The Creator made you different. Here's the problem. They know that they have no second chance. See, the reason you have chances is because you were born into this duality. See, we live in a duality, good and evil. And you have evil in you and you have good in you. And it's that struggle, that eternal duality struggle, black against white, the dark against light, evil against good. That's the struggle inside you. And that was due to someone else making a mistake in the beginning, and now we suffer. But they made a willful choice to turn on the Creator of the universe. There is no second chance for them. But you see, they're so jealous of you that they want to put you on their level. They want to bring you down to a fallen being and make you think that they're equal to you and you're equal to them. Well, you're just a fallen being, and, that's what you are, and you fell from heaven, and you're just having to earn your way back in. What does the biblical text say about earning your way into heaven? Can you truly earn your way in? I've read that book, and the book says no. There's nothing you can do to get in there. It comes as a gift. So if you know someone who's teaching this pile of poop, put it in the dog scoopy, okay, and go throw it in the garbage, because that's exactly what they're doing. They're teaching you crap, okay? All caca. You're no fallen angel. You actually are a beautiful creation of the Creator, and you're loved by the Creator, and He wants you to know who He is, because we do have Creator. And Scott, one of the things I wanted to tell you, and this falls in line with what you have said before, Scott. What they want from you is your heart. Do you understand what I'm saying? To change the human heart, it has taken thousands of years. Do you understand how hard it is for them to change the human heart? They have to employ so much deception. Look what they do. subconscious programming in movies, entertainment, bowling, the black ball, or whatever it used to be black, knocks down the white pins, the pool game of pool, the white ball hits the black ball and puts it in and you win. Do you understand? Everything that you have learned is all a lie. They need to conquer your heart. That's what they're trying to get. And once they get your heart, you're finished. And that's next. Let's move on. That's when you have sold that out. Once you sell that out, you're finished. And that's what they're doing. It's all matters of the heart. Do you understand? They want to break that human heart and set up the perfect incident, the perfect anything to completely break your heart. Scott, I'll give you an example of stuff that a lot of people may not know. Did you know that all movie theaters, all the orphanages, any place that houses children, every one of them are built on ley lines? And did you know that these buildings, all these movie theaters, they're built to Freemason geometric stats? Everything is built geometrically composed by the Freemasons and their math on ley lines. Not one movie theater does not fit on the ley line. Why is that? Because these beings are programming you while you're sitting in there, and they're going to evoke a response from you: pain, hate, fear, suffering, horror movies, sad movies. They are going to evoke a response. Now, let me ask you, how this works. It's like a chamber, okay? And you have it over a ley line, and what's happening, and you may not, I know this is very hard for some of you to understand because you don't really understand the spirit realm and how it works, but just hang on, bear with me. What is happening is all of the energy that you are giving off at that very moment with fear, pain, anger, sadness, suffering, because your heart is being touched by what you're seeing on the screen. Now, it is absolutely true, and you need to understand this, my friends. They're harnessing that energy at the very moment that you're giving it out. And that's called loosh. That is the loosh, okay? And they're utilizing that energy to create in this world. See, they can't create. We create. They don't. So they need us. They need us, and they need our energy. They feed. Yeah, have you ever been really hungry? Oh, my God, I haven't eaten in 2 days or whatever. Oh, I'm so hungry, and your stomach feels like it's going to, you're just really hungry. Okay, and you go and you drink a glass of milk and have a taco or something, and you go, oh, God, I feel so good. Well, for them, they eat energy. Do you understand? They feed on it. And some of them are addicted to certain types of energy, like you're addicted to alcohol or marijuana or whatever, addictions, shopping addictions, gambling. They get addicted to energy and certain ones. So they create that same energy flow by provoking you to give it away for free through entertainment, movies, whatever. So, again, what have you done? You've taken your heart and you've utilized your heart to give off an energy that is not from the Creator. So now they're just breaking your heart a little bit more. Have you ever noticed, Scott, when a celebrity dies, people mourn? Oh, when Michael Jackson died, I thought people were going to fall out. There were people whose hearts were broken. Do you know that Michael Jackson, everything that happened to him and everything that happened all the way to the end was all scripted? Do you understand that? They did that on purpose. So it would evoke hatred, anger, sadness, suffering, because they were feeding off that energy. That's what they did. Did you know Princess Diana was born to die? Everything in the occult, every person that's born is born way before they're ever born. It is the exact time they'll be like in their mother's womb. When they'll be born is also calculated by date and time, okay, because that's how the rituals work. And their death is already planned way before they're ever even born. Princess Diana already knew she was going to die. Remember when she would let that slip on interviews, they're going to kill me? She knew that she was going to die because she had to be the sacrifice, the mother goddess, the sacrifice to the god. She was in the tunnel, which is the tunnel of Diana and the statue there, okay? She crashed on the 13th pillar at exactly a certain time. Do you understand? Like 30, the same as it would be in a ritual, okay? And then she was 3 months pregnant with an Arab child, Ishmael, the Arab child. That child was taken out. When they removed that pregnancy and all the things that were there, each one of these royals were able to partake and eat of a little bit of that pregnancy, the child and the, whatever it is, the pieces and parts. That's what they did. You understand? People were absolutely heartbroken. See, it was already done on purpose to harvest the energy from all of you who may have been seriously suffering that she was dead. So they were breaking your heart. They were breaking your heart. And Scott has always said, Scott, I'll let you take it from here, and I want you to tell them it's the matter of the heart. Bind the brokenhearted. Jesus tells us to do that. And this is about the heart. And if you think that the biblical text is wrong, I'm telling you that from the world I walked away from, that is the goal, is to break your heart and suck the energy out of your heart.
Well, I've done extensive teaching, and on YouTube I have, which is an explanation of my chapter, Matters of the Heart and Soul Ties. Because you can develop a soul tie with an individual, whether it's a divine or demonic. And when you have someone that is of a counterfeit, someone that is put in place by the demonic, you may think that you have a love for them, and what you have is a demonic soul tie that keeps you in bondage. All right, Proverbs 4:23, we're told to guard our hearts, okay, because out of our hearts comes a wealth of life. And so if that is destroyed, then our life then withers, our countenance comes down, our hope is lost. And when we're in pain, then we're willing to do things to avoid the pain. And when we do that, then we're going to make judgments, we're going to make decisions, we're going to do things we wouldn't normally do. Okay? Now, our ear gates and our eye gates, as I mentioned last night's show, are extremely important to guard. What we visually see and what we hear. And we need to remember that there are many people in this world who are counterfeits. You may be in relationship with a counterfeit now. You yourself, since you haven't been, quote, delivered, may actually be a counterfeit. And what I mean by that is that you enter into a relationship with somebody, and it was never intended to be righteous. It was never a God sent, and so the whole thing was set for destruction. And so you end up hurting people hurt people. Okay, so you're a weapon, and or the one coming to you is a weapon. I know many of you have gone into relationships. I'm dealing with somebody now that is dealing with a counterfeit that has absolutely destroyed their heart. They can't function, they can't eat, they can't sleep, they can't, So the spirits that Julie's talking about are literally feeding off of the destruction. Okay, and this is what they get off on. They really think it's funny too, by the way, that you're weeping and crying and you're absolutely destroyed, and they're laughing. They're absolutely having the time of their life. So when it comes to matters of the heart, we also find that a root of bitterness can enter in. We also find that there are those things of unforgiveness, hatred. Okay, so there's a fine line there that this is one of the reasons we're to guard our hearts, but we also see in Ephesians that we're to put on the chest plate of righteousness. Okay, and that's to guard those things that are crucial. Okay, the helmet of salvation, the breastplate of righteousness, and by doing so, then we're also warned not to take offense. Okay, so if you take offense by something, then you're wounded. Okay, and I mentioned to people that, as the saying goes, water off of a duck's back, or just be thick-skinned. Just understand that the people you're dealing with are most likely demonized. You might be dealing with someone who's demon-possessed. You may be dealing with somebody who's not even human. Okay, so you need to understand this so you don't take offense and you allow yourself to be hurt. Now, one of the things that I experienced when I discovered this in 2000 was I was able to forgive, because I came into the realization that those who were the offenders, that they themselves were in a severe bondage. Again, I've mentioned that since there has not been deliverance done on a standard form, so to speak, for thousands of years, there are millions of people who are broken and wounded, and through their efforts of avoiding the pain, inflict pain, and so the curse continues. It is a curse. Because when you have something that repeats, when you have something that comes back every so often, it is a curse. You can have a curse of poverty. You can have a curse of bad relationships. You can have a curse of illnesses and diseases. That's why some certain diseases within families. And since nobody is breaking the curse, since nobody is spiritually warfaring and standing against evil and casting them out, then they're just running amok. They're running amok in the churches. I've said, you don't exterminate roaches, you're going to have roaches. I can remember when I lived in Los Angeles, Downey, Alhambra. There was an apartment when I was just a pup. I was only 20 years old. I was living in this apartment in Alhambra, and the ants were so bad that it was miserable. And I never would have thought ants would eat soap. They're soap eaters. That's very bizarre. But that seemed to be what they go after. But the point of it is that without exterminating, you were getting bit. You were being annoyed. It's uncomfortable to have such things around you, and yet there's things you can do. And the church is allowing the soap-eating ants to run all over the church. When in reality, because you're not doing it, then you're flying in the face of what Jesus did. I have to tell a funny story. I don't know how this happened, but back then, because I'm an old guy now, but when I was 20, the phone that we had in the apartment, you just hit the receiver once, click, the old landlines, the old dial phones, and then they had the touch tones, and somehow that connected anybody who did that. So you could have somebody in Downey, you could have them in East LA, you could have them in Alhambra, and all they had to do was tap on that receiver, the little button, when you hung up the phone, and it puts you on a party line, and on there was every type of person in the world that discovered this, and it was a massive disaster. But that's kind of like the spirit realm. You make the attempt to tap on that receiver, be ready for who's on the other line. Because as I was listening to the conversations on there, what there was a lot of deception and lies to lure, to ensnare, to beguile somebody into a relationship. Kind of like an open dating game way, way back, or internet dating before internet was even possible. And so I'm sure that there were many people who were hurt and wounded over that experience. I don't know what the phone company did. I don't know how that happened. I'm sure they were pulling their hair out. But again, that was an ensnarement that brought people into relationship that were never intended to be. Do you see the correlation there? Only because of the error of the phone company, which may not have been, I don't know. that people that would have never have met. And since on the phone you can give the appearance of being somebody really nice and special, that can end very, very sadly. So by not guarding your heart, by having, as the saying goes, you got your heart on your sleeve, we're to be loving and compassionate. But we're also to be wise as serpents. Now, let's observe that terminology. Is a serpent wise? So therefore, they must be talking about something that's supernatural, something that's outside the realm of a slithering snake, because there's nothing about it that has any value to give to knowledge. So that was a very specific term that I believe had to do with reptilians, because it was known. Just like I was talking the other night, and Julie, you alluded to it about dragons. Those were dinosaurs. Okay, and then the term dinosaur wasn't even around, and they had to coin the term, develop the name, so they could program us into thinking there was some other instance of it. When reality, as I mentioned, that I believe it's part of the corruption of man, when the sons of God came into the daughters of men, and then those creatures went into other things, and then we had just a hodgepodge. So going through all that, and let me lead into that, by the way. Tomorrow night, I am going to be doing the show on baptism. Okay, now, when you get these things broke off of you through the cleansing of your spirit, then the deception, the curses, those things that have you in bondage can be lifted. So since the church has altered and changed baptism to where you do it so you can be a member of a church or you're only sprinkled or so forth, these things are not the order of God. So I want to clarify that, and I can assure you that there's going to be a lot of stuff lifted off of people when you start doing it right. Now, I also, before I go any further, I want to thank everyone for supporting this ministry. It's been some interesting months here ever since we brought up the fact of Zionism, those things that are in place as deception. A lot of people were offended and they left, the show that we had on Scott Hensler Network. And that kind of put a crimp in things. And there's some key people, and I want to thank everyone who's helped out, because every little bit has helped. And we've been able to maintain, and we're only here because of you, and I really want to thank you, because I can't imagine doing anything else. And if that all falls apart, I don't know what we're going to do. So I also, real quickly, before I turn it back to Julie here, I want to give you an update on the letters that I sent out to the state of Idaho and Kootenai County Sheriff and the Chief of Police of the Coeur d'Alene Police Department about psychotronics, otherwise radio wave weaponry, chemtrails, those things that are being used against us. I have yet to hear any response from any of them. Okay? I'm sure they're in lockdown. I'm sure they've gone to DEF CON, whatever. And so this is going to be interesting. What I have found, that when, the old saying, no news is good news, well, not when it comes to the occult, not when it comes to Freemasons, not when it comes to those people who are lies and deception. They're simply gaining time, trying to get their P's and Q's in order so they can do whatever they're going to do. But so I just wanted to give you an update on that. The exoteric that you were talking about, Julie, is everywhere. And I've mentioned this before, that when I went to the service down the road here on a Friday night, for 45 minutes or so, they talked about God. But they never put in clarification what God, and they never brought up Jesus. So and since they don't believe in deliverance, since they wouldn't go there and everything else, then I assume that, again, it's the sliding of hand. So, but getting back to guarding your heart, just remember that when you are hurt, let's say if you've lost a loved one, this happens. If you're a married couple and you have children and you lose a child, statistically the marriage does not hold. And one of the reasons is because initially the grief that you have because you've lost a child is so great that the two individuals, the husband and wife, cannot bear to even look at each other because of the grief. And so they will split for a time. Okay? Funeral takes place. They may blame each other, whatever, but a part of them has died. Now that is unfortunate. It does happen, but that's a case that shows that when we are tied with somebody, because it's part of their flesh, that's what a husband and wife is about, that when that's separated, when that's done, because they have a soul tied to the child, then the pain and suffering comes in. And we see all throughout the Old Testament, that there were sackcloth and ashes and throwing dirt on themselves and ripping their clothes and showing the agony and pain. So the heart is an incredible, though it's a word used for our emotions, that it does affect our heart. I remember, Julie, it was after Desert Shield, when I went to Desert Storm, the first U.S. military that died was, or at least one of the first, was a young man in Tucson, Arizona. And the mother was so grieved, she dropped dead at the funeral. She had a heart attack. She had a broken heart. She couldn't take it. She couldn't take it. It was too overwhelming for her to see her son in death. And so when we associate and tie ourselves to third parties, such as people in the media, that's all by design, like Julie's talking about. Starstruck. I can remember being in the San Francisco airport back in 1975, 76, and over the PA system they said, "Bob Hope, white courtesy phone," and the whole place went nuts. I couldn't believe it. Absolutely incredible. Well, he's a human being, he's a man, and we also find out that he was an agent from MI5 or MI6 for also working with the CIA and in one of the covert operations to program, to bring in communism, to bring in those things in Hollywood. And there were people who were trying to even bring that forth, and the FBI made quick work of them. So we have to understand that the people we look up to may not be necessarily even humans, they're not who we think they are. Just if you went into a bad marriage and you woke up one day and you realize that's not who you married, who is that person? The honeymoon's over with, and then hell comes home for breakfast. So, all right, Julie, there you are. Go ahead.
Yeah, and you know what, Scott? We've been set up from day one, and for anyone to believe that if you believe something other than what I'm telling you, you're going down the wrong vein of understanding. I'm trying to explain to you that they do these things by design. 9/11 was done to traumatize the nation and to pass laws to take away your freedom. They did it on purpose. Okay, they're feeding off of it. And I know it's hard for some people to understand this electromagnetic world, the spirit realm, but it just is what it is. I mean, this is what they do. Now, you know what? I'm going to give you a couple of examples of things that you might not understand. I want you to. If people watch is it the Oscars where they get the little golden man? Oscar is actually Osiris. Do you understand? That's Osiris, the god Osiris. Now, when they go to the Oscar thingy, they walk down what? The red carpet. Do you guys know what the red carpet actually is? The red carpet symbolizes the blood of the Goyim. They're walking on the blood of the Goyim. And you are all Goyim if you're not a Jew. You're Goyim. So that's what that means. That's what it symbolizes. And they set up things that you think are one thing, but they're actually something else. Let me give you an example. I'm sure everyone has heard of a painting called the Mona Lisa. Well, first time I saw it, I was like, and your point would be, oh, this is a famous painting. I said, well, it's an ugly painting. That looks like a man. Oh, no, it's a beautiful rendering. I'm like, no, it's ugly. What about that is attractive? See, you've been told to believe that is a priceless painting. That painting isn't worth, I wouldn't give you a plug nickel for that thing. See, because it really isn't worth anything. Do you understand? It's worth nothing. But you've been told it is. Now, do you really want to know what Mona Lisa is? I'm going to show you what it means. We're going to go backwards. Okay? Mona. A-N-O-M. It's Anam-Ra. That's the god Osiris. That's what it is. Anam-Ra El-Isa. That's what it means. Do you know what that means? It means and Isis. That is the androgynous being of Osiris and Isis. Do you understand? That's actually what that is. Everybody in the occult knows this. But the general populace worship that painting. I know someone who's an artist that absolutely thought I was the most, oh, you are just the dumbest, most ignorant human being that you can't see. And I'm thinking, should I tell him what the Mona Lisa really is? Should I bust his bubble? I did not. But, you see, he bought the lie. He's bought into all of it. But the problem is, it's actually an androgynous being, Anam Ra El Isa. So, and I also want to show you something else that you may not really pay attention to. When you see the circle with the triangle pointing upward, one of the meanings of that is the male energy, because if you notice, the peak is pointing up, the phallus. The male energy is contained within the circle, which is the vaginal gateway of the womb, okay? So what they are telling you is that we are containing, to take over your world, we have contained the male energy, and now we are feminizing the males. You see, in biblical days, they try to come, you know, all these forces come, men were men. Men were real men. So all these men that came in an army to fight a city, they were going to have to do battle with the men. But now it seems the women are the ones that are going to have to do battle because the men act like women. I mean, even the man that's genderly is a man. What is this? You go get your nails done. Oh, excuse me? A pedicure? Are you serious? I mean, men when I was growing up would have never even considered such a thing. It's like, so that's what that means. That's one of the things that it means, is that they have feminized the male, and they have absolutely contained the male energy on the earth. So you might want to think about that. And remember, restrooms. If you go to a restroom, do you ever notice that the triangle, a lot of them have the triangle with the male figure or the female figure? That's another pyramid, okay? Reminding you, again. And so, and you know what? Another thing is that I wanted to let you know, the atheism was also an effort by these beings, these Anunnaki. It was a calculated effort to disassociate you or remove you from Creator. So you wouldn't even have any kind of relationship with a Creator, okay? Everybody likes this restaurant. I can't stand it, but a lot of people like this restaurant called KFC, and it's called Kentucky Fried Chicken. Well, if you want to know about that restaurant, that little old man that you see in the picture up there, pay close attention. It was painted in such a way that if Asian people look at it, he looks Asian, and if white people look at it, he looks white. He don't look like all of us, the Hispanics or blacks, but he looks one way or the other, and they can see the white, and the Asians can see the Asian man. Okay, and you know that kindly old man who started that? He named it KFC, and it was actually an anagram for the very bad F word. So what they did was take the F, C, K, and they moved the K to the front. That's actually what that meant. And how many spices? 12. 1 plus 2 is 3, the sacred 3. Okay? Now, that old man was one of the top, still is, top, he's not dead, top programmers in MK Ultra and Super Soldier programs. That kindly-looking old man has beaten, raped, sodomized, horribly, electrified, put cigarettes out on, you name it, many children. He's a programmer. And you're eating his chicken. See, you thought it was just a chicken place. The owner of Taco Bell is also a child raping, sodomizing, killing machine. These people in these high-level CEO companies, these people are involved in all of this nasty stuff. Look at the Taco Bell eye. That is the evil eye. Go look at it. It's the evil eye. Just understand, anybody who's anybody is going to have, they're going to be part of this system. You call 911, what are you doing? You're calling Revelation 9:11. His name in the Hebrew is Abaddon, and half his name in the Greek, Apollyon. You're calling the beast system. 911, 9/11. See, there's all this backdoor meaning to these things that you guys don't know. And you need to know that, let me give you another example. You may not know this. Did you know that the Hilton, built by Conrad Hilton, is actually built on ley lines? Every single one is built at pivotal ley lines, okay? There are certain rooms always reserved for the heads of all the countries in the world and all these big companies and conglomerates and meetings. Now, remember I talked about going to these meetings? You don't go on an airplane in person in your flesh body to these meetings with Lucifer. That's not how it works. You go in your astral body. And did you know that all the rooms that are built right on the ley line for exactly that purpose, because Conrad Hilton was a Mason, is Mason, 33rd degree, and high he's a Illuminati Freemason, okay? So that is what those rooms are reserved for. There are certain rooms that these people will rent, or however they do it. They go in those rooms, and that room will bring them into the spirit realm to the location they're supposed to go to for the meeting with Lucifer or whoever else. Okay, if you look at Hilton, okay, you have the hill and you have the tongue, which is the serpent, the frequencies. That's what this means, okay? And then if you look at his logo, it's an H, and then it has that little swirl that comes from the middle part of the H, and it swirls up and around. That's the serpent. That's what that is. That's what it means. So that's where you would go to get out of your body, and being in that certain room is actually going to, they're stargates. Each one of those rooms that are meant just for that are actually stargates, and you will go into another spirit realm, but you'll go into wherever you're supposed to go. You'll be taken there, your astral body. So that's exactly what this man has been into. And see, that's why it's hard for people to grasp these things, you know? You remember the movies 007? Everybody likes 007, right? I never did, but anyway, a lot of people do. You know why it's 007? The 2 zeros represent the eyes, okay? And the 7 represents, if you look at it, the cover. It covers, okay? It's the eyes and the cover of the queen. The very first 007, and who was actually this was coined for, was John D. And he was the head of Queen Elizabeth's whole menagerie of, he was the spirit counselor, he was the general and all this stuff, okay? And he spoke to demons. And by the way, when they found his diaries, he actually said in one of his diaries, I don't believe these things are angels. I think they're demons. They're lying to me. Okay? So he came to understand the truth of it. But that is what 007 was. It was the 2 eyes, and the 7 was the cover. So he was the eyes and cover of the queen. And that's how it worked. So you can see, even in the shows like Family Guy, I have never seen that because I'm not I'm just not a TV person, but I made myself just suffer through some of it. There's an old guy on there that's a pedophile. There's a pedophile guy. He's that old guy on there. He's a pedophile. He's on there all the time. He's the predatory old guy that does things to the little children on there, chasing the little children. So it's okay to have pedophiles because, look, right there on Family Guy, there is one. I mean, it's ridiculous. So, and by the way, I know that a lot of you have said to me, I don't understand how you can say that little old man is still alive or Joseph Mengele is alive or any of these people. Almost all the people from the Third Reich are still alive, okay? And I know that you have trouble understanding that, but understand this. They have age reduction technology, as in Joseph Mengele right now is like 55 or 60. They actually have the technology to do that. And believe me, like Rothschild, he's been around for thousands of years. So is the Queen. She's been the Queen many times. Yes, she has. Not her first go-around. These people are not human, okay? And they live a long time, thousands of years. And they also have age reduction technology for the bodies that they're inhabiting, okay? You understand, these people aren't dead. And they are still alive and well, and they are still going after what they want. Like the celebrities, people think that they're new to the world, whatever. People like Leonardo DiCaprio. Well, do you actually know who he is? He is Leo of the Caprice. It's an island off of Italy. That's what his name means, Leo of Caprice. Robert De Niro. Did you know that he's actually a descendant of Nero? For show. Okay? Ramsey, same way. The Habsburgs, you can actually maybe do some research for yourself if you'd like. The Habsburgs are probably the strongest of the lines of the Holy Roman Empire. You think the Roman Empire died? It's still here. And that's the line that De Niro, Leo DiCaprio, Martin Scorsese, they all come from that line. Okay? All of them. In fact, Martin Scorsese was the high priest of the Church of Set out in Los Angeles until Jim Carrey took his place. And now Jim Carrey's the high priest, right? All you need to do is understand. Are they Catholic? Yes. And if you mean like Catholic, the real Catholic, yes. Robert De Niro, they're all the real Catholic. The real Catholic isn't what the masses worship. They're told that's Jesus and Mary and, God the Father, but that's not actually who it is. See, the Catholic religion is just like the Freemasons and just like the Jews. It's a very ancient Egyptian mystery religion. And all these religions, like I said, are layered with esoteric levels, okay? And one of the strongest of them is the Catholic Church. So in that he's Catholic, these people are Catholic, yes, they're Catholic in the esoteric meanings of the Catholic Church, which is the real meaning, but the little people are told the exoteric. So again, here we go again. You are making a choice when you walk into these buildings, Presbyterian, Baptist, the Catholic, a mosque of Islam. You're making a choice with your heart to give your power away to an evil source. You are choosing to do that. So while you're choosing to give your power away to an evil source so they can continue to feed on it and get stronger and keep up their crap, then you are the one that's making the world suck. You're doing it. You're responsible for it because you are giving everything you have to them. Every time you go to a movie and you get upset and crying or a horror film and you have all that fear, you're feeding them. You're part of the problem. If everybody would get rid of their TV sets, like I've told them a million times, ditch the TV sets, ditch the cable, ditch the television, use the internet for some information and news or whatever you're trying to do, but ditch all that stuff. Quit giving your emotions to the dark side. You're feeding them. And that's how they grow. That's how they have power, because you're feeding them. If you did that, didn't go to another movie, refused to participate in this stupid life and said, I am out of here. Disconnect from every matrix. If you have children, yank them out of school. I will not allow you to brainwash my children anymore. And if you try to brainwash them or try to make me put them back in there to brainwash them, you will cross a line that you cannot go back off of. Do you understand me? See, if everybody did these things and withdrew themselves and their energy and their support for Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton and these evil reptilians that are running this country and all of the world, they would crumble. Just withdrawing your energy from them, they would crumble. Everything would fall to pieces. They can't create. I told you that. They need you to do the creating. So they put you in the mindset of fear. They suck off the fear, and they create with your energy. That's what they do. And what have they created? A prison planet. So that's what they're doing. And by the way, if anybody thinks that they don't know what you're doing, I hear people say, well, I don't want to say anything. They have a chip in me, and they can see through my eyes, and they can hear, and and they can, I don't know, or I don't want them to know, so I'm not going to write that in an email, or I'm not going to text message that, or I'm not going to say that on the phone. Let me explain something to you. Even back when I was involved in the remote viewing, that sort of thing, practicing that, they have the best channelers, remote viewers, psychics. You have to be a natural psychic like I was, and then they use the remote viewing and technology, and they can see every single thing you see. They can hear every thought you have. They can see every thought you have. Do you know that there are people who have stolen ideas for books and movies and inventions from other people by reading their mind with a remote viewer? It happens all the time. A lady in England happened to her. Christine J. Hart wrote a fabulous novel, but it was stolen from her mind by a winch and her counterparts. This is what they do. Do you understand? They read your mind, so you can't escape them. Well, I don't want to say that in an email. Why? They already know what you're thinking. You can't escape them. Do you realize that they've been doing this for like 100 and something, 200 years, 300, 400 years? This has been going on before this country was. If you look at Egyptian hieroglyphics, and a lot of you that know me know that I have. That's how what my degree or my education is wrapped up in symbols and things like that. So I studied that stuff infinitely, looked at it, hundreds of times. If you look at the hieroglyphic art of the Babylonian Egyptian symbolism, go to the Egyptians, you're going to see on there, they have in the Book of the Dead, they actually have instructions of how to traumatize and disassociate and fracture the mind of a child to create other personalities and program them just like they're doing today. In the Book of the Dead, it explains how to do that. And they're still doing it. See, this stuff didn't just start in recent years or 200. This has been going on right there in the Book of the Dead. You can read it for yourself. It shows, well, if you don't read, but you can see pictures and symbology, but that's what they're doing. And that's what those symbols mean. They're breaking and fracturing mind, traumatizing them, and disassociating them, and then reprogramming them. Okay? And they knew a long time ago that sexual abuse creates opiate addiction. They knew this. All they had to do was fracture a child. Did you know that when a man sodomizes a child, that energy goes straight up the spine and into the back of their head, and it actually creates, in the back of their head, it creates a fracture, a shattering of energy right there, and it shatters this. It's like the pineal gland in the back of the head, this, what I told you, the hippocampus. It literally shatters this power center, and it fractures. That's why they sodomize little boys, because that's how they do it. Little girls, same thing. They just go either way, and the same thing. But this is the point. This is what they're doing, and they're breaking their hearts. They're breaking their hearts. So you need to understand everything here on the earth is inverted. It's all upside down. It's all inverted. The inverted pyramid. Everything is inverted. You can be sure that if the church tells you to do it and you do the opposite, you'll be fine. If this system says this is what you have to do and you do the opposite, you'll be fine. Because everything in this world, this matrix, is inverted. So you need to remember that. See, the trick is to break your heart. And you are making choices, which is this program is based on choices. So I'm telling you some secrets to show you how many people are making bad choices. Okay, I know that some of you have to have your kids in school, and I get that. But if you don't, you really need to yank them because you're making a bad choice for your children. They're being harvested for their energy, and they're being programmed to be a little, do what they're told. So I would advise you to look at the choices you're making. If someone knows something that you don't, please don't be offended because there's things you don't know. I mean, I have to deal with that stuff all the time. That you know, you know that. Well, you know what? I've walked a road that most people wouldn't even understand. That's why I know more things than other people do. I wish I didn't have to do that road. But that was the law in my life. That's what ended up happening. And like Scott prayed with me yesterday and really helped me out because I had things that were coming back to my mind and coming into, my world at this point. And, being stuck in a very famous military base in this country and being programmed and traumatized for over a year in the space. I can't remember almost anything to do with this, but I know that I was taken to Area 51, and that's what was happening to me for over a year at this base. So now I know that's where things went. I mean, I started remembering other things, and I was like, what is happening? Why is this? You see, this is what they do. They get you when you're young, and they mess with you. They color-coded, program me to be things that God never intended me. I'm to be a witch and an assassin and murder people and all this stuff. This is stuff that God never intended me to be. And, some of you have siblings that actually traumatized and programmed you. They programmed you. That's what they were doing. And they were being allowed, the demons in your family were using that particular child that they know is not going to come to Jesus or have any part of any of that because it doesn't live in their heart. And they will use that kid to traumatize and program a child in the family that they see. See, they already know. Do you understand? It's all chosen. There's a day to live and a day to die. You're going to die on a certain day at a certain time. It's already done. It's programmed. Okay? That's what's going to happen. God knows that day and time when you're coming home. He already knows it. He knows everything. When we're going to go, when we're coming, the whole thing. So they'll use a sibling to traumatize and program you and post-traumatic you so that you will never grow up to be that person that Creator made you to be. So you think about these things and you think about the choices that you're making because everything comes down to choice. And please understand, I know this is really, 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 I've harped on this before, but please don't discount it. The spirit realm is very serious. Okay, please understand. The demons are nothing to trifle with. If you have your pride up in high gear, because you think you can do things that you can't do, and you think you can see in the spirit realm. I can do this, and blah, blah, blah. We're all equal here on earth. No, we're not. Because sometimes some of us don't put ourselves in situations that we know will get us in trouble, but the other person has no problem marching right off into trouble land. See, that makes me a little more discerning. I'm over here going, oh, I'm not going over there. Oh, I know what's around that corner. But the other person goes, I don't care, I'm going. See, you cannot, that's why God has people to teach you, has people to say, look, there's a fire around the corner and a hole in the road. Don't go down there. I've already been down that road, and I came back, and let me tell you, everything I had got burned up. So just don't go down there. That's what I'm doing. I'm telling you, do not discount the demons. The dumbest demon on the planet is smarter than every person on this earth. Okay? These are ancient creatures. You have, if you have the Holy Spirit in Jesus Christ, you have dominion over them. But let me tell you in terms of that is something you can acquire, but it doesn't mean you have it. Because most of you have been running from them your whole life, and they don't scare easily. Okay? You're going to have to fight hard to get loose from them, because they don't go away easy, and they're always coming back trying to start over. So please do not look at the spirit realm. It's no big deal. These things are out to take you to hell. So just keep that in the back of your mind when you are making choices of things that you're doing. Look at labels. Look at signs. McDonald's, that was 13. McDonald's is 13. Gematria. Look, they've done everything. They've programmed everything. Calypso's Coffee and Creamery, a place where Scott has in his town. CCC 333. She's a witch. She's in the occult. And I can tell you just by the gematria of what she calls her business. Scott, you should talk about that, too, about all these symbols that keep popping up all over your town.
Yeah, every time, if I'm talking to Julie on the phone and I'm running errands around the post office or whatever, like today, I was sitting at the intersection and every car had a sticker indicating something of the occult. Everything from orange octopuses to pyramids to reptilian eyes, everything that indicates that they're of something other than, human. And that's why I say this particular area has just become the command center for reptilians. I don't know how many know this or not, but when you look at the NASA logo, you'll see, the words NASA, and then you'll see what looks like kind of a red ribbon that runs through there. That's a reptilian tongue. That was all formed out of Project Paperclip when they brought in those people. Commenting, too, about what Julie was talking about, fear in children, and I've talked about this in great depth, that one of the main entry points of demons is fear. So if you had a sibling or a parent that really thought it was funny to scare you, jumping out around the corner and yelling boo, and you were just a small child and you literally would shake in your spirit when that would happen, that's a fracturing. That's an entry point for demons. And when those demons come in, then they basically set up camp and get ready for the other demons. So fear is the first one. So the other issue that I've talked about, and I talked about it again last night, is circumcising young males. This is genital mutilation. This has nothing to do with any biblical whatsoever. It serves absolutely nothing. They may tell you that there's reasons for it, but the Rockefellers basically put this in place. This goes back to 1888. There's a nice number, huh, Julie? And so what that takes place is when this is done, it is so traumatizing to the child because they'll actually try and cause a sexual stimulation. They actually say they would prefer that. So the first sexual encounter that a young male has as an infant ends up in horrible pain and that trauma. And there's a fracturing that takes place. And so this is all done by design to basically keep us from being who we are, as Julie said, and that takes us out of relationship. Now, just as I mentioned earlier about the book Skeletons in the Closet, and those things that were satanic ritual abuse, those things that had to do with molestation and rituals, that it comes back sooner or later. And same thing with the circumcision, which again has nothing to do with any biblical means. That once that trauma takes place, then whenever it's in a sexual nature, when Julie was talking about sodomizing, when the demons come in, they morph, they alter the sexuality. That's their big fun game. And so this is one of the reasons that you see individuals who say that they were born gay. No, they were not. Okay? There was something that took place, whether it was molestation, abuse, abandonment, rejection, whatever the situation is, and the mind fractured, and then there were those things hidden. So from that day forth, if it was 6 years old, then the individual has arrested development from that day forward, and everything back prior they don't remember. So at 6 years old, now that the demons come in and they morph the sexuality, they alter, they change, they think they were born gay, and they're not. And so if we can get the chance to pray for these people, now that's one of the other reasons they're making such efforts to make opposing homosexuality a law, because then that'll keep us from praying for these people, from recognizing the sin, recognizing the curse, recognizing the trauma that was done to them that put them in this information, because by them continuing in their behavior, their name, whether it was in the Lamb's Book or not, is then removed. We see all through Scripture that is possible. Those who say you cannot lose your salvation, that is a coined term to say that you're going to lose something. No, you forfeit it. Okay? So we see that there's a great falling away. We see that many are going to depart from the faith. If you depart, then you were once it. All right? And then what Julie was talking about, believing that we're fallen angels and we're here as a second chance to make things right. Again, just like the pre-trib or some of the other doctrines, they'll take a little bit of this and they'll take a little bit of that, and they make this cake and they present it to you, and you think that that's truth. No, it's not. Okay? Fallen angels, they rebelled against God. Now, you need to remember that they were in an angelic environment. They were actually to be able to be in the presence of God. They knew the righteousness. They knew the order. They knew the power. They knew how things were in place, and they made a decision, just like those 200 in the book of Enoch that made the pact to come into the daughters of men. They made a willful choice. They were of free choice. So they are now unredeemable. So for us to think that we are that is absolutely absurd. That shows you the last-ditch effort that they're trying to do. I mean, I'm stunned that anybody would even consider that, because it goes against everything in Scripture. There's nothing there to support it. In fact, there's everything to say just the exact opposite. How we were set apart. We were made beautifully, wonderfully. How the angels marveled at us when God put us in the garden. So, again, if anyone believes in that, then or starts to believe in that, that shows you the power of demons, the power of deception, the power of the lie in these last days. So now you understand why they tried to remove these books, because these things absolutely, I told Julie today, the book of Enoch completely blows that out of the water. And so by not accepting the book of Enoch, when we see in the book of Jude and various other places that Enoch walked with God, these things were referenced to the book of Enoch through the writings. They tell us where spirits came from. They tell us what happened before the flood. And then we pick it up in Genesis 6. So, there you go. Now, again, with removing certain books, how many books were taken out? That's a very good question. See, everything that's going on now that has to do with psychotronics, has to do with the Great Deception and those things, even though there's been things that have touched on it, in the scriptures that we have of the 66 books, there really isn't anything there that talks about psychotronics. So apparently, in the Vatican, in their great library, I'm willing to bet that there is something there that indicates that. Because I want you to understand that the oscillator that is used to create microwave is more of an electrical mechanical device. It's not electronic. And so there was technology, which is fallen angel technology. When we look at the Roman helmet, it literally is the same design that I did when I made my first tinfoil hat in order to stop the microwave from affecting me. Now, you'll see on the internet that there's an attempt to tell people that these things will not work. Well, that's a counter. They're trying to get you not to even make an attempt to stop that. Now, you can make the hat incorrectly and turn it into a parabolic, which will actually capture the microwave. So it's very important to understand that there's an order of things and how electronics. Radio waves are referred to when in their application as the skin effect. That's why microwave is not electrically connected through a coax or feed line. It's actually in what's called a ductwork. It's in a microwave duct, and so the signal passes through like a hose, a metal hose, a ductwork. So because the frequency is so high that when you get higher in frequency, the radio waves actually travel on the outside of material and not through material. That's why those who are experiencing microwave weaponry on them, they'll actually, just like I did the other day, I was feeling the sparks on me. I was snapping and crackling, and there was actually like static electricity jumping from my chest over to my arm because there was two different potentials. That's how radio waves work. So the point of it is that we are in a time that is like no other. Now, with the pre-Adamic races and whatever those issues are, we need to remember in Genesis that it said in a beginning, not in the beginning as we were told in translations. Okay, so obviously this may have taken place before or in different ways, and here we go again. So just get ready, people. Understand that there's a great move to cause you to have disbelief. As soon as your belief is altered, is challenged, Satan's got you. That's another reason for guarding your heart. It's another reason for having the helmet of salvation, so our mind is not bewitched. So those things that come in are not going to capture us. All right, Julie, we're out of time. Thanks for the information. We're going to pick it up on Friday, and tomorrow please join me on my channel for baptism. All right, God bless everyone.